All right, let's get ready to really dive deep today.
Yeah.
Into something pretty fascinating, I think. Love.
Love.
Yeah, but
Uh,
not the typical kind.
uh-huh.
We're going to be exploring a much more, I think, a much more profound kind of love.
Yeah, yeah.
The concept of Christ-like love.
Okay.
As presented in Elder Jose L. Alonso's address, uh, called Love One Another as He Has Loved Us,
Okay. I've heard of this one.
which he gave back in October 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. Elder Alonso really sets a high bar here. He suggests that we should strive for a love that actually mirrors the love of Jesus Christ.
That's really interesting because, it raises a lot of questions, right? Like, can we actually be commanded to love?
Right. Yeah.
Is love more than just a feeling?
Yeah.
What's the connection between love and service and even forgiveness?
Oh, great question.
Yeah.
I'm really eager to unpack all this with you.
Yeah, this will be good. So Elder Alonso, he starts by reminding us of Jesus' new commandment
Yeah.
to love one another as he loved us.
Mm.
But that phrase, as I have loved you,
Yeah.
that's so crucial.
It's huge.
It suggests that we're not just talking about our limited human love,
Mhm.
but we're striving for something much, much greater.
It's a really powerful distinction. He's really challenging us to, I think, to reach for a divine standard of love.
Right.
But how does Elder Alonso define love? Like, how does he actually define this kind of love?
Yeah. Well, he defines it as a feeling of deep devotion, concern, and affection.
Okay.
But then he points to the infinite atonement of Jesus Christ as the greatest example of God's love for us. You're familiar with the atonement, that ultimate act of love.
I am, yeah.
But he takes it a step further.
So he's using that, instead of just explaining the concept, he's using it to illustrate the depth and the magnitude of love
Exactly.
that we're aiming for.
Yes.
Okay.
He's highlighting that Christ-like love goes beyond those, just those warm feelings.
Right.
It's rooted in action, sacrifice, and a willingness to put the well-being of others before our own.
So this idea of love as a verb,
Yes.
right, really resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of action, I think this is where we can talk about that charming story that Elder Alonso shares about his grandson.
Oh, yes.
Jose.
Jose.
Remember little Jose asks his grandma, "How do you know you love me?"
Yes.
And her response just so beautifully illustrates this point.
Yes, because
Mm.
she explains her feelings,
Right.
but then she lists all of these things that she does for him,
Yeah.
all the ways that she shows her love through actions.
Through her actions. Yeah. And then when she asks Jose the same question,
Uh-huh.
he replies, "Because I feel it in my heart."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which perfectly captures, I think, that childlike understanding of love as this combination of feeling
Mm-hmm.
and action.
Yeah. And this is actually echoed so beautifully in King Benjamin's teaching when he says, when you're in the service of your fellow beings, you are only in the service of your God.
Right.
So that serving others is a direct expression of our love for God.
It's so powerful. I think it makes you think about how we express love today.
Yeah.
Through emojis,
Yeah.
social media posts, quick texts.
Exactly.
But what about those, more tangible acts of service
Yeah.
that Elder Alonso emphasizes? He even goes as far to compare love without service to faith without works,
Wow.
suggesting that it's essentially meaningless.
Yeah, that's a strong statement.
It's a powerful statement. He's really challenging us to move beyond these easy expressions of love
Right.
and translate our feelings into concrete actions
Yeah.
that genuinely impact people's lives.
Yes, I think it definitely makes you stop and think.
It does. It does. But here's where I think things get really interesting.
Okay.
Elder Alonso doesn't shy away from the more challenging aspects of Christ-like love,
Mm-hmm.
particularly forgiveness.
Yes.
And he brings this to life through a very personal story
Yeah.
about his family and their son, Cooper.
It's such a powerful story.
It is.
It's about this unimaginable loss, but also this incredible power of forgiveness.
So to set the scene, it was the first day of school.
Yeah, the first day of school.
Cooper, just 4 years old,
4 years old.
was riding his bike near the bus stop,
Mm-hmm.
and tragically, a car making a slow left turn didn't see him,
Oh.
and an accident occurred.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking.
I mean, the Alonso's forgiveness in the face of such a tragedy is just incredible.
I know, it's really remarkable.
But Elder Alonso doesn't, he doesn't shy away from how difficult forgiveness is. So how does he suggest that we can approach it, like when the hurt feels just insurmountable?
Yeah, he emphasizes that the ability to forgive actually comes from a place of deep love,
Okay.
not from ignoring the pain or minimizing the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
He shares that even as he and his wife Sharon were grappling with losing Cooper,
Yeah.
they felt this need to reach out to the young driver.
It's just incredible to me that in the midst of their own grief,
Yeah,
they could think of someone else's pain. It's amazing. So what happened when they met with this young man? Well,
Yeah.
Ted, Cooper's father, described it as a miraculous experience.
Ah,
They embraced this young man
wow.
and his parents. They wept together,
Wow.
and they assured him that they understood it was an accident.
That's just amazing.
And over time, they actually developed a close relationship with him. They supported him through milestones, and they even accompanied him to the temple.
It's a really powerful testament to the healing power of forgiveness,
Yes,
both for the one who forgives and the one who is forgiven.
exactly. Yeah. Ted reflects that being able to forgive and to unburden himself in that way is as sweet as being forgiven.
Wow.
It's just a beautiful example of what Elder Alonso calls divine love in action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that story is just so incredibly moving.
Yeah.
It really highlights just the transformative nature of forgiveness.
Right.
But I think for so many of us,
Yeah.
the idea of reaching that level of forgiveness
Yeah.
can just feel so daunting.
Mhm.
Even impossible.
Wait, I understand that.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is definitely one of the most challenging aspects
Yeah.
of Christ-like love.
Right.
But before we go too far into that, I think it's important to really clarify what we mean by Christ-like love.
Yeah, that's a good point. We keep using the term,
Yeah.
but we haven't really defined it.
Right, exactly. So just to be clear,
Okay.
when we're talking about Christ-like love, as Elder Alonso defines it,
Mhm.
it's a love that seeks to actually emulate the love that Jesus Christ demonstrated throughout his life and ministry.
Okay.
So it's a love that's rooted in compassion, selflessness, service, and forgiveness.
Right.
And it extends to everyone,
Wow.
regardless of background, beliefs, or actions.
So it's not just a feeling, it's a way of being,
Exactly.
a way of interacting with the world
Yes.
that's rooted in these, in these core principles. Yes, precisely. And I think, that's where things can get a little bit tricky because we can be so inspired by the idea of Christ-like love,
Yeah.
but actually living it out
Right.
in our daily lives
Yeah.
is where we encounter the challenges.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to get, just caught up in the
Okay.
busyness of life
Yeah.
and kind of lose sight of these higher ideals.
Mhm.
Serving others is a beautiful concept, but what about those times when someone's needs
Yeah.
clash with our own?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Elder Alonso actually addresses that indirectly
Okay.
when he references President Thomas S. Monson's counsel.
Okay.
He said, "Let us examine our lives and determine to follow the Savior's example by being kind, loving, and charitable."
Okay, so that gives us a starting point.
Yeah.
Kindness, love, charity.
Yes.
But how do those principles translate into action?
Mhm.
Especially when we're faced with, those everyday dilemmas.
Well, it's about recognizing that striving for Christ-like love is an ongoing journey.
Okay.
It's not a destination.
Right.
It's about making consistent, conscious choices
Mm-hmm.
to align our thoughts,
Yeah.
words, and actions with those core principles.
So instead of trying to be perfectly loving all the time,
Right.
we focus on those smaller,
Yes.
everyday moments where we
Mhm.
can choose love over selfishness, kindness over indifference.
Exactly. And sometimes those choices might require sacrifice,
Yeah.
putting the needs of others before our own comfort or convenience.
Okay.
It could be as simple as just offering a listening ear
Right.
to a friend who's struggling,
Hmm.
or helping an elderly neighbor with groceries,
Yeah.
or, choosing to be patient
Right.
with a difficult coworker.
Yeah. So it's about those seemingly small acts of
Yes.
service that
Yeah.
can actually have a huge impact on the people around us.
Absolutely. And one thing that I find incredibly helpful is remembering that sometimes those small acts of service
Yeah.
can be profoundly impactful for the giver too.
I agree.
I remember a time when I was feeling, I don't know, particularly overwhelmed and burnt out.
Uh-huh.
And I had committed to helping a friend move.
Mm-hmm.
And I was honestly dreading it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to curl up on the couch and hide from the world.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did you end up bailing on your friend?
I was so tempted to.
Yeah.
But, I knew that I had made a commitment.
Right.
So I showed up, I put on a brave face, and I started hauling boxes.
Mhm.
And you know what? In the process of serving my friend,
Yeah.
something interesting happened.
Okay.
My own burdens felt lighter,
Mm.
As I focused on helping her, my worries and anxieties just kind of faded into the background.
It's amazing how acts of service can have that effect.
Yeah.
It's like by shifting our focus outward, we create that space for healing and perspective within ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the beautiful paradoxes of Christ-like love.
Mm-hmm.
When we give of ourselves, we often receive so much more in return.
Right.
We experience a deep sense of purpose,
Yeah.
connection, and fulfillment.
It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes we need to fill our own cups
Yes.
through acts of service and love in order to have anything to give to others.
Right. And that brings us back to the importance of forgiveness.
Okay.
Because holding on to anger, resentment, or bitterness
Mm-hmm.
is like carrying around this heavy weight.
Yeah.
That drains our energy and prevents us from experiencing the fullness of love and joy.
Forgiveness is tough, though.
It is.
It can feel so much easier to just hold on to those
Yeah.
negative emotions.
Right.
Especially when we've been so deeply hurt by someone.
Right. And I want to be clear that forgiveness doesn't mean condoning the wrong that was done or minimizing the pain it caused.
Mm-hmm.
It simply means releasing ourselves from the grip that those negative emotions have on us.
Okay.
Choosing to move forward with love and compassion
Okay.
rather than bitterness and resentment.
But what about those times when the hurt is so deep,
Mm-hmm.
when it feels impossible to even fathom forgiveness?
Yeah.
What advice does Elder Alonso offer for those situations?
Well, he acknowledges that forgiveness is a process.
Okay.
It's not just a switch that we can flip on.
Right.
It often takes time, it takes effort, and sometimes it even takes, divine help.
Yeah.
But he emphasizes that true forgiveness comes from a place of deep love,
Okay.
both for ourselves and for the person who wronged us.
So it's not about ignoring the pain
Right.
or pretending it didn't happen.
Exactly.
It's about choosing to approach the situation
Yeah.
with compassion and understanding.
Yes.
Recognizing that, we're all imperfect beings.
Yes.
Capable of making mistakes.
Precisely. And that's where remembering the atonement becomes so crucial. Because through Christ's infinite sacrifice,
Yeah.
we have access to divine grace,
Mm-hmm.
to the strength and the healing we need to forgive even the most grievous offenses.
So it's like we're tapping into a power that's beyond our own limited human capacity
Exactly.
to forgive, a
Yeah.
power that can soften our hearts
Yes.
and open us to the possibility of reconciliation.
Exactly. And remember, forgiveness is not just about releasing the other person from the debt they owe us.
Right.
It's also about releasing ourselves from the burden of carrying those negative emotions,
Okay.
allowing ourselves to experience healing and peace.
It's like we're choosing to break free from the chains of the past,
Yes.
to unburden ourselves from the weight of anger and bitterness.
And that freedom allows us to move forward with a lighter heart, to experience greater joy and love in our lives.
So it's like forgiveness creates the space for love to flourish,
Yes.
both within ourselves
Yeah.
and in our relationships with others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another crucial aspect of Christ-like love,
Okay.
the importance of loving ourselves.
That's an interesting point. We often talk about loving others,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I think we forget about the importance of extending that same love and compassion
Yeah.
to ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not about vanity or self-indulgence.
Right.
It's about recognizing our inherent worth as children of God,
Okay.
accepting ourselves with all our imperfections,
Okay.
and treating ourselves with kindness and grace.
But how do we cultivate that self-love? Especially when we've made mistakes or been hurt in the past.
Yeah.
How do we overcome those feelings of, unworthiness or self-doubt?
Well, it starts with shifting our focus from our flaws
Okay.
to our divine potential,
Okay.
remembering that we are each beloved by our Heavenly Father,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of our imperfections
Yeah.
or past mistakes.
So it's about choosing to see ourselves
Yes.
through God's eyes.
Yes.
With love and compassion, rather than judgment and condemnation.
Precisely. And as we embrace that truth, we begin to, I think, let go of the need for perfection
Right.
and embrace the messy, imperfect beauty of our human experience.
It's like we're giving ourselves permission to be human,
Yes.
to stumble and fall, to make mistakes and learn from them,
Mm.
all while knowing that we are still worthy of love and belonging.
Exactly.
It really is. That idea of embracing our imperfections, like you said, it's so liberating.
Mm.
It takes the pressure off, needing to be perfect all the time.
Yes.
But sometimes I wonder, how does self-love actually translate into loving others more effectively?
Well, that's a great question. It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm.
So when we nurture self-compassion,
Mm-hmm.
we create this wellspring of love and kindness
Okay.
that overflows into our interactions with others.
Okay, so it's not a selfish act. It's actually essential
It's essential.
for building healthy relationships.
Yes.
And extending that Christ-like love to the people around us.
Exactly. When we're secure in our own worth,
Mm-hmm.
we're less threatened by differences, less judgmental of others' shortcomings.
Mm-hmm.
We can approach relationships with, a genuine desire to connect,
Right.
to understand,
Yeah.
to support.
So instead of trying to fix or change others,
Gotcha.
we can simply love them for who they are,
Yeah.
right where they are.
Exactly. And that acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
that willingness to meet people where they are,
Yeah,
that is such a powerful expression of Christ-like love.
it is.
But even with a full cup of self-love, practicing this kind of love consistently, I mean, it's not always easy, is it?
No, definitely not. It's like we talked about, real life kind of gets in the way. We get busy, stressed, maybe even a little resentful. So how do we keep those ideals of Christ-like love from just fading into the background
Right.
of our daily lives?
Well, I think Elder Alonso really emphasizes that cultivating Christ-like love is this ongoing process.
Okay.
It's not a one-time achievement.
Right.
It's about incorporating those practices into our daily routines
Okay.
that help us align our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
So instead of, grand gestures,
Right.
we're focusing on small, consistent steps, like incorporating daily love workouts, so to speak.
Yeah, I like that. Love workouts.
What are some of those practical exercises?
Well, one powerful practice is just starting each day with this conscious intention to be more loving.
Okay.
Maybe you take a few moments in the morning to reflect on Christ's example
Mm-hmm.
and set a specific goal for how you want to express love that day.
So it's like setting our internal compass,
Yes, exactly.
orienting ourselves towards love as our guiding principle,
Yes.
like that.
And then throughout the day,
Yeah.
we can check in with ourselves,
Yeah.
asking, am I being loving in this moment?
Mm.
How can I better reflect Christ's love in this interaction?
Those are great questions to keep in mind. And
Yeah.
instead of just going through the motions, we're
Yeah.
being mindful
Yes.
and intentional
Yeah.
about how we interact with others. What are some other practical tips?
Another incredibly powerful practice is cultivating gratitude.
Okay. Yeah.
When we focus on the good in our lives, on the blessings we receive,
Mm-hmm.
our hearts naturally soften
Yeah.
and we become more open to giving and receiving love.
It's like gratitude is a gateway to love.
Yes.
It opens our hearts.
You're
It does.
kidding.
And it helps us to see the beauty in the everyday, the blessings in the mundane.
Yes. And it also helps us to shift our focus away from negativity and scarcity.
Right.
When we're grateful, we realize that we have enough,
Yeah.
that we are enough,
Mhm.
that there's plenty of love to go around.
That's so true. It's like gratitude transforms our perspective,
It does.
allowing us to see the world through a lens of abundance
Yes.
rather than lack.
And from that place of abundance, we can more freely share our love and our resources with others, knowing that there's always more where that came from.
So it's a beautiful cycle, isn't it? Gratitude fuels love. Love inspires service. Service brings joy, and joy feeds back into gratitude.
It's this upward spiral
Yeah.
that lifts us up and blesses those around us.
Yeah.
And don't forget about forgiveness.
Right.
That's a crucial piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah. Forgiveness is hard,
It is.
especially, when we've been deeply hurt. Do you have any practical advice for putting that into practice?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes the best first step is simply acknowledging the hurt
Oh.
and allowing ourselves to feel the pain without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling can be really helpful for processing those emotions.
Yeah. It allows us to get those feelings out
Right.
instead of bottling them up inside.
Exactly. And as we process the hurt, we can start to cultivate compassion,
Mm-hmm.
both for ourselves and for the person who wronged us.
Right.
And remembering that everyone makes mistakes can help soften our hearts.
It's like shifting our perspective from victim to empowered participant.
Exactly.
We're choosing to release those negative emotions and move towards healing.
Yeah. And if we're struggling, there's no shame in seeking support.
Right.
Talking to a trusted friend, a family member, a therapist, or a religious leader
Yeah.
can provide valuable insights and guidance.
That's such an important reminder. Sometimes we need help navigating those difficult emotions, and through it all, we can always turn to Christ.
Absolutely.
For support. Right.
Yes. He understands our pain. He knows our struggles,
Mhm.
and he offers his grace and strength to forgive even the most difficult offenses.
So even when forgiveness feels impossible, we can draw on that divine source
Yes.
of love and healing to guide us through the process. It's
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. And Elder Alonso reminds us that as we choose to love one another as Christ has loved us, we not only bless the lives of others,
Yeah.
but we also bring greater joy and fulfillment into our own lives.
It's like that ripple effect.
Mm,
Love spreads outwards, touching countless lives, and ultimately circles back to enrich our own hearts.
beautifully said. And as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into Christ-like love,
Hmm.
let's leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
I love it.
What is one specific way you can practice Christ-like love in your own life this week? What act of service or forgiveness could you offer?
I love that challenge. It inspires us to take action, to really move those ideas of love from our heads into our hearts and into our hands.
Remember, even small acts of love can have a profound impact.
Absolutely.
And as we strive to follow Christ's example, we'll discover that love is not just a feeling,
Hmm.
but a force that has the power to transform lives, heal hearts,
Yeah.
and make the world a brighter place.
Until next time, fellow deep divers, keep exploring, keep loving, and keep diving deep.